You're listening to the Flickcast, a podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, my co-host and extraordinarily cool guy, Joe Dilworth. Hi, Joe.
Wow, so it's me and this other person's extraordinary cool. Are you introducing a new host?
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't want to tell you, but yes.
Well, I get it. I mean, we need somebody.
We need some new blood in here.
Charismatic to
Charismatic.
bring people to the show.
What we need to do is bring back a host who has died in a different year or something.
Oh, yeah.
And in a different
That's what
timeline,
do.
we could have a different host. Like coincidentally,
That's true.
apparently they're doing, and I'm going to jump right in because I'm excited about this. I'm going to jump right into the news that there will be a Deadpool 3, of course, but also that, wait for it, Hugh Jackman will be coming back to play Wolverine in Deadpool 3. That's very exciting.
Let me just say, Ryan Reynolds should be marketing and promotion for everything.
Seriously, yeah.
Because I thought that was just fantastic the way they did that. And then their follow-up video the next day was pretty great.
We need to explain, how is Logan alive? Logan died in, well, Wolverine died in Logan. Yeah. I mean, he just sits there and talks about it on his couch. I mean, that's probably a really good way to market something.
Yeah.
But it brings up a lot of interesting questions, of course, about how Wolverine could be alive considering he dies in Logan. Spoilers. But that was in the year, 2029 or something? I don't even remember.
That's right. So he's not dead yet.
So he's not dead yet because that's slightly in the future. And I love how James Mangold is in on it too. He's like, well, in whatever universe this happens, I can't wait to see,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Mangold knows how the world works. He's like, I want to work with Marvel again, so I'm going to be nice. But not that he would.
Of course, I'm sure he's like, hey, so if you're going to bring Wolverine into the MCU and he'll still do some movies, maybe I could direct.
Well, I thought Logan. I mean, I think everyone would agree, or most people would agree, that Logan is a fantastic film and a great send off for not only Wolverine but of course Professor Xavier as well. But it'll be interesting to see how they integrate Wolverine into the thing, because if you recall, Deadpool 2, at the end, when he uses Cable's time travel thing, he does go back in time to when he played Deadpool the first time. And
that's true.
And shoots that Deadpool, which is pretty funny, and says, someone's going to ask you to put, whatever, just in a few years or whatever, and come back say yes. That, remember? So it's like, prophetic in a way. And I feel like since day one, Ryan Reynolds has been trying to work this out, because even in the first Deadpool movie, he's joking about Hugh Jackman and Wolverine.
Yes.
So it's like they've been trying to get this for years. And another thing I didn't realize, but then Hugh Jackman and Kevin Feige have been good pals all the way back to the first X-Men movie too. So
exactly. So it's not.
It's not impossible.
It is surprising. I mean, he's been playing the character for like almost 25 years.
Well,
now,
X-Men came out in
crazy.
2000. So 22 years at least.
Yeah, well, yeah, because they probably spent a year or more before that shooting it. So I think it's really cool that he has agreed to come back. I'm not expecting it to be more than just this movie, and they'll probably do some kind of wacky hijinks with it. But maybe he's like, you know what, I could.
Well, there's a Secret Wars movie coming out, right?
Right, right. So maybe he'll be in that. Who knows? But
I mean, maybe that's a real all hands on deck movie where all the X-Men, all the Avengers, everybody comes back for that one. Maybe, who knows? But
it could be. But I just think it's definitely a surprise, and I think it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it.
What do you think? I'm wondering if they're going to try to do some kind of House of M thing, because if people recall the House of M storyline, or something similar, because Wolverine is basically the only person who remembers the other timelines, right? Because of his healing factor, his brain is not erased by Scarlet Witch. So I wonder if that'll be something that happens. Maybe some part of that'll be taken through to he's like a timeline constant, and that's how they realize that mutants exist. And I mean, obviously, mutants are in the MCU now; they have to be. And there's going to be an X-Men movie coming up, and how are they going to explain the Fantastic Four? Are they going to use like cosmic rays in like in the comics, or is it going to be they going to be mutants? I don't know, but
well, Ms. Marvel is a mutant.
She said, he said mutant, exactly.
She said, and they were talking about the Black Panther 2 movie. Namor, the Submariner, is he in the comics has been labeled as the first mutant because he came out in 1930s, and the guy playing him has said, he's a mutant in this one. So they're obviously bringing in mutants slowly. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised, if it was something like the Scarlet Witch had had eradicated that timeline or something like that, and Wolverine survived and remembers, and because nature abhors a vacuum, it's been bringing back mutants in the MCU, and then she's like, maybe that's the resolution. Eventually, she's like, okay, so I'll bring him back, and boom, there we go. We got the X-Men.
Well, yeah, or it's not Scarlet Witch necessarily. It's just it's the snap that,
or Kang or something.
Yeah, exactly. Kang could have something to do with it, or it could have been Thanos with destroying the Infinity Stones. That burst of energy could have created mutants or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think they will do something. I mean, obviously, it's just cool.
I'm confident they have a plan. Yeah, let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool to have Hugh Jackman come back, but I think that there's got to be a reason. It's got to be a big deal to help linchpin something in the MCU to explain mutants or bring them in fully or something. It's not just going to be like a cameo where he goes, "Hey, go fuck yourself," you know. It's not going to be something. That could be something like that. So yeah, it's cool, and I don't know that anyone else necessarily could have made it happen. Ryan Reynolds, man, I think he had the most to do with it for sure. But I'm sure that money might be a factor too. But
that should be like the whole through most of the movie, Deadpool
yourself.
keeps going to Wolverine, going, "Hey, I need your help. You'll be great if you." And he's always, "Go fuck yourself," for 3/4 of the movie, and then finally at the end, he's like, "All right, fine."
Well, yeah, I mean, he does. Obviously, it's footage from that movie from X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it's not new footage. But Wolverine does show up in Deadpool too, so it's not like
he does. That's true. It's not unprecedented.
Yeah. So there you go. Yes, Logan is dead in one timeline, but we don't even know that Logan takes place in the Prime MCU timeline either. That could have been a total offshoot, just because.
Well, that might not have even been the whole even Prime X-Men universe. That could have been an alternate future.
Exactly.
There were things that didn't quite line up, but I like the fact that they just made that movie their own movie, and I agree with what you said earlier, that it's just even as a movie, it's fantastic. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great send off for the characters, because it's nice to have that kind of closure, and it is kind of sinister what happens to Professor X. I mean, how he's the one who killed all the mutants, right? Basically,
exactly.
Except for Logan, because Logan can resist. But yeah, and then you bring in X-23 and you bring in all this other stuff. But anyway, it's just it would have been a good ending, but there's not going to be an ending, obviously, because now Disney owns Marvel and they own Fox, they own everything.
Well, characters never die, even in the comics. Right. I mean,
Well, if you believe the premise of the multiverse, then Wolverine is alive in thousands of other worlds and just one.
Well, it's got to have something to do with that, because that's the whole section of the MCU now is the multiverse. So
and look how successful it was bringing back the Spider-Mans, right?
The Spidermans.
Yes. We should get the team back together, because they could all come back for Secret Wars too. So I think you're going to see. I'm going to predict it right now. You're going to see Tobey and Andrew Garfield come back for Spider-Man. As Spider-Man's in the Secret Wars movie, and you're going to see Wolverine come back, and you see Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. come back, and you see everybody come back. Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody, except the people.
What would be great is if
Black
they're
Widow.
Like, this is gonna be our big send off, and we're not gonna make any more after this, and we've given Warner Brothers a bunch of money. They have Henry Cavill show up as Superman. That'd be great.
That would be interesting. I'd like to see Henry Cavill play. I'd like to see Henry Cavill play Superman again, but he probably won't.
I think it would be awesome. I think if Snyder's Justice League had done well and they kept going with those movies, that I wonder if eventually we might have seen an Avengers Justice League team.
Well, yeah, crossovers are a staple of comics, right? So
they did that in the comics. Yeah. They did a 4-issue JLA and Avengers crossover that was just amazing.
Well, so they could do it again, but can you imagine the budget of that movie?
It would just be they would have to. Somebody would have to hawk a small country.
How could they afford it? First of all, but also it's like, what do you do after you pay everybody's salaries? Like, everyone stands on the green screen stage, and that's it, right?
But you know how much money that would make? That movie would make.
It would make a lot, yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It might be worth it, but that would be a big financial risk to take.
Neither studio would be able to make a movie for.
You're talking about 10 years afterwards. 20 major stars, probably 15 or 20, maybe. Yeah. So it's like everyone's getting, whatever. I mean, maybe they all take back end. That's how you could do it, but
That's it. Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of back end or prequels, I guess we could go to. Well, should we go to Andor? Talk about Rings of Power. There's a lot of shit.
Well, we can talk about it. We can talk about Andor.
This is what happens when we take a week
that.
off and have a fun bottle episode of food stuff.
I know. I know.
But it was fun, you know. Andor. Okay, so Andor is the prequel show. It takes place in 5 ABY, I guess they're calling it, right? Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
not ABY, it's BY or whatever it is. But
BBY.
yeah, because ABY.
Before Battle of Yavin.
Yeah, right. And so that's 5 years until Andor basically helps steal the plans for the Death Star and then dies on the beach as the thing explodes. But that's, if you've seen Rogue One, you know.
But not yet. Not yet.
No, not yet. He's still alive now. He's learning to rebel. Some people have complained about this show, Joe, as people do, that it's slow.
Of course they have.
And that nothing happens, that Cassian Andor was not a good character to base a series on. I'm going to say right now, I love Star Wars, and I love everything about Star Wars, Jedis, lightsabers, all that shit. I don't mind if they want to have a story that doesn't have either one of those things in it. It's okay.
Yes.
There are TIE fighters occasionally, though.
There are.
The show is not action-packed, for sure. There is some action. The show is not a typical Star Wars show. It doesn't all take place on Tatooine, for one thing, in a dumb mining town, although part of it did. I like the fact that they went outside. I'm not 100% sure about the flashbacks to Cassian's childhood. That was kind of a thing that went nowhere almost, except that his sister, I guess, disappeared, and that's something that's mentioned in the first 10 minutes of the episode, and they never talk about it again. But
Right.
So that's kind of weird. Which maybe they'll get back to it. I don't know. His sister will end up being the lady we met, the rebel woman, or the Empire spy woman. I think that's who it's going to be.
Yes.
Maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm enjoying it. You know, I like Diego Luna. I like the fact that they're just trying different things. It's not necessarily a Star Wars show, but it kind of is, only because, you know, they're saying it is. But it's, you know, the beginning of the rebellion, and there's, you know, stuff. It's just, I find it interesting, but it's definitely not, you know, it's not for everybody, I'm sure. So. What do you think, man?
I agree
okay.
that it's definitely not for everyone. Yeah. I really, really like it. There's a lot of small things that I really appreciate it. Like in the flashbacks, they don't have subtitles for whatever language they're speaking.
Yeah.
Which to me burns in the whole, because it's like in the present. People are like, we just have heard about those in rumors. That planet doesn't exist and stuff like that. So I like the fact that it's like, this is a lost people, a lost planet, a lost language. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know what they're saying. We can tell what they're saying by their actions. So I really like that. I like the fact that, and don't get me wrong, I love the whole idea of the whatever it is they call the big screens that they use for Mandalorian and they use for TV now.
They're not actually using that for this.
I know, that's the thing. I like the fact that they're not even using that. Everything is actually built. All the sets are real and exist. So that automatically gives it a different kind of tone and look than the other Star Wars shows that we've seen. So it definitely sets itself apart. And honestly, I'm not sure how exactly to describe it, but the tone, the look of it, with the sets and the costuming and everything, feels to me the most like the very first Star Wars movie than anything else that's come afterwards. Because it feels like grimy and dirty. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the thing of the first Star Wars movie, or A New Hope, if you will.
Yeah, the world seems lived in, like people actually live there.
Yeah, it was lived in. Things didn't. It wasn't shiny and polished, and it felt like, yeah, this is someplace they actually live. Even the Lars homestead in the prequels was all neatened up and looked nice and all this kind of stuff, and not like it did in Star Wars.
That's before it went to shit. So.
Right. So this feels like that an extension of that universe, mm-hmm. and I like it. I like it a lot. I thought Cassian Andor was one of my favorite characters in Rogue One, and I think it's really cool getting to explore him a little bit, and I think at the same time also getting to explore in more detail the formation and ascendancy, if you will, of the rebellion. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. I think it's really great, and the actors they have in this are pretty outstanding. and doing a great job. And I agree with you. It's not really action packed, but I think we've had this discussion about a lot of the Star Wars movies and the MCU or Star Wars TV shows and the MCU TV shows, that they're more being utilized to explore characters as opposed to be, big battles every week and stuff like that. So I like it. I think it's great. I'm already lamenting the fact it's only going to be 2 seasons, but
Well, you know how
these things are expensive.
2 seasons and a movie.
2 seasons. Yes, exactly.
So.
Yay, community. Anyway,
Yeah.
2 seasons and a movie, and it doesn't end well. Although, we never saw a body.
I mean, it ends well for the Rebellion, but not necessarily for Andor. But yeah.
Well, yeah.
You're right. We never saw a body. He could just crawl. He could just, and then gets picked up by the Emperor and turned into a cyborg or something. Who knows?
Yeah, he's the stormtrooper who hit his head.
Exactly. He's confused.
So,
He's very confused. Yes. Yeah, I don't mind character building. I'm not as impatient. I'm not a young person who's impatient for something to happen every second after watching things, TikTok videos where everything is resolved in 5 seconds or whatever. I don't mind development. I don't mind dialogue and discussion. I like things to make sense, and I like things to be, if you're going to bring up something, I like you to recircle back and sort of resolve it at some point. Don't leave it dangling.
Yes.
And I also question, and this is just me trying to figure out in some ways what the audience for this show is. So I think about, a Disney Plus show, right? Is the audience for kids? Because ostensibly Star Wars, as George Lucas says, is made for kids, right? Which is why he kidded it up more as it went on. So setting a show in a brothel seems sort of strange to me.
I don't think it's set for kids. I don't think Rogue One was necessarily.
Well, no, I agree with you. But then,
kids either.
But what is the audience? It's not for kids. Obviously, it's not a Disney show. So, but Star Wars is supposed to be for kids, right? So, this is not a kids show.
Don't gatekeep. Don't gatekeep. It's not supposed to be.
I'm not gatekeeping. But it was. I'm just talking about what the creator said. The guy who created the whole thing. It's a kids show, basically. So I wonder, they're trying to make it more adult, which is fine. I prefer that because I think it's partially because they realize that the original audience of Star Wars is aging and they want stuff to appeal to them. It can't just be for, so, and that's fine. And it's working on me because I'm enjoying the show a lot. The other thing I like is, yes, the practical locations are terrific, and the characters, just the minor characters, even like Andor's buddy, this salvage guy, great character. Even the one scene they had where they start talking about the cover he has to give to the guy, it's a great scene, I thought. And that guy was a terrific actor.
Like I was drinking with you last night.
And you fell. I helped you. Yeah, exactly. And you'll probably never see that guy again. Maybe. I don't know.
Right. But that was a nice little detail.
It was. But the guy, they're getting all these really good actors because they shoot in England. So they have this whole pool of people to draw upon. You're getting some cool English accents like in the old days. So it really does help feel like, original Star Wars. And I like the fact that the Empire seems on the ball. They're not a bunch of nincompoops who just go, hey, Keystone Cop shit. Obviously, the private security guys were less so. Less on the ball. But you have the ambitious guy who we might see again, whatever. I don't know. But it's,
that guy, I've worked for people like that where he's like, I'm not giving up.
Middle management types, really? Yeah. I really loved his boss too. It's like, we just don't want to get involved because the lower profile. I mean, because you can see that middle bureaucrat shit happening. It's like interesting to me. It's funny, and those guys are all terrific. Especially the sergeant guy who was in Chernobyl. I loved him in Chernobyl. Did you ever watch that?
I did not.
He plays one of the miners who they get to help dig out the power plant. He was great in that too. But the idea is they all have to be naked. So he struts up, Anyway, but he's terrific in that show, and he's also really good in this as the sergeant who's like, "We're gonna go fight, sir." Yes, right. So, you know that guy. I'm enjoying it. I kind of wish stuff would happen a little faster. Only like watching this last episode, I'm like, you're going to stop here, right? When Andor says, okay, let's get going. You're going to cut right now. Okay. And you did. And so, and now it's over.
Well, the end of the episodes are a little weird. Yeah. It just feels like they just stop.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You're going to stop here. Yep. And you did.
Yeah.
It just sort of ends. There's no real, arc in each episode necessarily, except I think in the last one there was a little bit when he gets with Stellan Skarsgård's character and they're on the ship and he sort of flashes back to the time when he was on a ship just like that, and and whatever. And I
Yes.
hope we get some more information about the sister and all that. But that kind of was sort of left for nothing. I kind of feel like he was just.
I think we'll come back to that. We still got
But was he just?
quite a
But was
few
he just
episodes.
bullshitting that? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because he's like more of a scavenger and anyway. So it's very gritty and it's very the other thing that's funny is now every city looks like Blade Runner to me, but it's hard to get away from that, I guess. But I'm enjoying it. I'm in. I'm disappointed that Andor is not a character that can survive for very long, but he can survive for 5 years, so that's pretty smart, I guess. But
I like his. I think he's an interesting character because he's not your. He's kind of like, to me, what Han Solo might originally have been.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of. He's not necessarily a good guy.
well, he's not. He's
And
not
he's
a good
just
guy.
trying to do. Yeah, he's trying to do right, but he would shoot first, right?
Well, he does.
Yeah,
He kills
exactly.
that dude. He
And-
kills that dude in the first episode.
Yeah, so I feel like he's sort of like the prototype for Han Solo was.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I just think it's an interesting character, especially I'm hoping that we get more of him as a young person, but just seeing where he came from,
Yeah.
and it's like, how'd you get from this idealistic, wide-eyed kid to this cynical thief and
Well, he said
murderer?
to survive and pretend to be somebody
Well,
else.
yeah.
Obviously, something
Exactly.
terrible happened on his planet because you can
Yes.
see the mining thing is like total junk. Like there was a huge accident or something different.
Yeah.
And I don't know who those other guys were that were on that ship, some other faction. Yeah, the one thing I thought was weird though is they built up this whole thing with the leader, and they're like stalking through the jungle and going to the wreck and doing all this stuff, and then she gets shot in like 5 seconds, and there's no more mentioned about that either, which I thought was sort of weird.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that was kind of
That didn't really go anywhere. I mean, except to show, oh, these guys are really bad. They'll shoot people in the back.
But they haven't abandoned the marketing altogether, because they have great ships, and of course they have the quirky, cute droid. So
Yeah, the droid's interesting with talking about how it takes more power to lie and all that other stuff. So yeah, another droid with a quirky problem.
Yes.
Although I did see this one YouTube video where they compared it to like Wall-E, and it's like shot for shot basically, where the droid's
Interesting.
going through a town and then walks right up to Andor when he's asleep, but in Wall-E he like rolls up to another android that's like laying down. It's kind of funny how it's pretty. Yeah, I'm going to say that's an homage, but it's like it's pretty spot on how close it is. But
yeah.
but it's Disney, so Disney was Wall-E, right?
Yeah.
Pixar, so it's fine. Borrow from
I
steal from yourself. Why not? But
I like it. I'm interested because they were talking about the second season
Yeah.
is going to take place over 5 years.
yeah, well,
Or 4 years or whatever. So it's like, how is that going to work? That'll be interesting to see that progression.
at some point Saul Guerrero's got to show up, and at some point,
Yeah.
what's her face has got to show up, right? Not to
We already have Mon Mothma in there, so
Yeah, that was. I love Stellan Skarsgård, and that scene with him and
Yeah.
Mothma where they go in the back talking about that gift for the husband, and the husband turns out to be a total prick, which I thought was interesting.
yes.
Mon Mothma is like, fuck this shit, man. Don't ever do that again. I'm gonna, yeah. She doesn't take any shit. I can see that. Well,
no, she doesn't.
why she
She's
becomes
very interesting
so powerful. But then the other thing that always intrigues me about these prequel shows, like Rogue One too, is like you never hear about these characters ever again, except Mon Mothma.
Right.
But you never hear about anybody else, like Andor or any of the other people. They're never mentioned because obviously they didn't exist when Star Wars came out. But and even in the first Bothan Spies, that's obviously in number 3, but it's like they never talk about any of these characters. Like Stellan Skarsgård's character seems like kind of a big deal, right? Or
Right.
Saul Guerrero seems like kind of a big deal, but you never hear his name ever mentioned. So anyway, it's fine. But
Well, yeah. You're right. It would be like, well, let me tell you,
look how
seems like one of them would be an inspiring story when they're trying to
look how
get them
pivotal
to do
these
so.
people were to saving the entire rebellion. They basically made the Battle of Yavin possible by getting the Death Star plans,
Right.
And yet they're never
Right.
mentioned ever. So
Yeah, because in A New Hope, it's just like, oh, these plans happen to fall into my lap, I guess.
and they get put
It's-
into R2D2. It's like
Right,
where did Leia
right.
get the plans in the first place? Obviously, in the end of Rogue One, the guys run through the hallways and they're away from Darth Vader, and the ship takes off, and then it's Hope, Joe, Hope, and so that's where the plans come from. But that wasn't.
And then A New Hope.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
See?
Rebellions run on hope. Okay. Anyway, I just I give me all the different, which is why I loved the Star Wars like anime thing with the Japanese artists doing all that stuff too. It's like give me all kinds of different stories about in the Star Wars universe. I think that it's
a whole galaxy.
Yeah, you could, a galaxy far, far away. You can do whatever you want. Yes. A long time ago, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Also, it's fake. I'm sorry, folks, but
well, yeah, it's all made up anyway.
So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's fine. You know what? I'm enjoying it. And I'm speaking of shows that I enjoy a lot more than I thought. I'm really into and really enjoying Rings of Power a lot more than I thought I would. There are some issues that I have with it, but that's okay.
Stuff happens in this episode, the latest episode.
Yeah, stuff happens. Yeah, some twisty stuff. If you haven't watched the latest Rings of Power episode, spoilers a little bit. I guess I should have said spoilers for Andor too, because we did talk about a few things. Except Andor does die in Rogue One. Everyone, sorry, a movie that came out 10 years ago. So.
Yeah, sorry.
If you haven't seen Rogue One, you should definitely see it. It's pretty good. Rings of Power. A lot of stuff happens this episode. This last episode.
We only have 2 more episodes this season. I'm bummed. But.
Yeah, I guess my theory about who Sauron is probably not true, but that's okay.
No, that got kind of blown out of the water.
Did it?
But maybe.
I don't know. I do like the fact that they, spoiler, created Mount Doom at the end. Good job, everyone.
Man, that was... There, you can definitely see the money there because that was just
I'm like,
amazing.
Where's the volcano? Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
I expected a volcano eventually. That's where they're gonna forge the Ring of Power. Oh my goodness.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I liked how they're making the father character, the orc father guy, the Uruk father guy. He was interesting because he was a corrupted elf at one point, like Galadriel says. That was a very interesting.
Adar, I think that's his name.
That was a very interesting development, which I found enjoyable to watch. But I like her. I would watch her do pretty much anything. The actress and the character as well. But it's fun. You know what? And there's some good battles, and the elf finally. What's his face? I can't remember his character's name, but he finally gets a kiss. But then she gets shot by an arrow, and it's like, this whole thing happens. But
I thought they were gonna kill her off, but they didn't. But,
I mean, I hate to say it, but most people could be dead now.
Well, that's true.
They were in the middle of a volcanic eruption. Maybe you don't want to make your village here after all.
I do like. It's like maybe we should. Well, now that there's a volcano right there, who knows who survived that as well?
Well, in the I don't know if you saw the preview for next episode, but Galadriel lives.
Well, surprise. I do like the characters that they've created for this.
Yeah,
I like that they do kind of go against type. Like the kid was like, oh, he's got the sword thing, and this is going to be several seasons, and he's going to turn out to be Sauron.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, he's like, you know what? Hey, Arendir, there's something you might want to know about, and here you might want this thing because I sure don't.
Yeah, he came through. He turned out to be you know what? That's good parenting. He made a right. He made a good choice. Obviously, she's a good.
Made a right decision.
She's a good mom.
Yeah.
So
yes. So I thought that was different. That was kind of good, and I did think, although I guess even the movies are full of this, it was rather convenient that they showed up in the latest episode
at the right time.
Yeah, but that story and all the books and the movies and everything are full of that anyway. But I mean, you had to get those characters.
Look to the east at dawn on the third day. You want to find me? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I really like it. I think it's got some great characters, both new and known, and the story has set up some great mysteries that it's like, at this point, I don't know where some of this is going, and that's kind of cool. I mean, we know ultimately what's going to happen, but
you have
broad strokes.
They have 5 years, so
yeah. So I expected that. I'm like, well, I like Middle Earth stories. This should be pretty good, but I'm like really invested in it now, and it's really good.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I kind of enjoyed this episode more because there wasn't hardly any Harfoot stuff. I enjoy.
I missed that, and I missed
We'll get to the dwarves next week.
Elrond and the dwarves.
Elrond and the dwarves. Yes.
I mean, it could be its own spinoff.
Yeah, it should be. It's a sitcom. Elrond and they live together. They're the original odd couple. Oh.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
Well, they spent a lot of time with Arendir and Bronwyn. I think they're going to move away from that for a moment. Obviously, they'll show Galadriel survive. Galadriel will survive.
Well, I'm sure all of the main characters survive.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true too. Most of them anyway. But
it seems weird that they would kill off Halbrand right after he becomes king.
I'm the king who was promised. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm done. So
he could still be a bad guy. I think he's still going to turn out to be a bad guy. I don't think he's Sauron necessarily, but I think he could definitely be.
I don't know who's Sauron at this point. Maybe the guy that we saw for like 2 seconds that was exploring the meteor impact. Everyone seems to think that's Sauron, but I don't know.
Because he's like a weird looking white dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's all scary looking.
He is scary looking, but I don't think Sauron would come in the guise of a scary looking person.
No.
And actually,
what I liked about Adair and his orc army was he really was like their surrogate father, and he actually I like the bad guys that are feel they're justified in what they do, but he also actually cared about them. I mean, he was like, sure, he would sacrifice them for stuff, but he's like, they're my family. And I was like, wow, that was kind of interesting, at least the way the actor played it.
Yeah.
That it was like, wow, he's not just.
I got
like
the impression that he was one of the
guy.
people who created the orcs.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah, so he was technically their father, kind of.
Right.
Because it sounds like they tried to create, like orcs and whatever, and with elves, and they corrupted the elves, and he was one of those, so he can walk in daylight. I think they're trying to make, eventually, because they make the Uruk-hai who can go in the daylight.
Right.
I wanted to do Ian McKellen. I won't do it.
Saruman does that.
Yeah, Saruman
right?
does it. Yeah, but he does that.
So maybe he's Saruman. I don't know.
Well, maybe that's interesting. No, I don't think so. I mean, I guess maybe he could be, but I feel like Saruman. If Gandalf is here, then I imagine that Saruman's already here. Because if I remember,
that's true.
If I remember Silmarillion, I think Saruman was the first. I don't know. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. They're not really following it anyway. So he could be Saruman, but that's possible. But he didn't seem like he had any powers. But he did the elf seed thing, which means because Saruman's not an elf; he's a human, right? Or is
that's true.
I mean, a human-esque. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Or he's a
whatever they're called. They have a special term like angels, but I can't remember what it is. But anyway, and we haven't seen sort of Fogolf or Gandalf. I don't know what we're going to call him, but we haven't seen him again. I'm sure we'll take.
Well, see, now I'm questioning whether Meteor Guy is Gandalf after our pick for Sauron didn't plan.
Well, we don't know if it's panned out. We don't know anything. We've got 5 seasons to figure it out.
That's true.
I still think there are some things about Halbrand where he's so interested in forging, and he's got a huge temper, and he likes to beat people up. Maybe he's just a dick, but maybe there's something else going on with him. I think that's not necessary. But he's supposed to be the king of that area of the Southlands. I don't know. There's some things that are not right about him.
Would he be Sauron and not know it?
I don't know.
Because I don't know. I think the end of the season we're going to get some kind of reveal, though.
Yeah, he'll
probably Gandalf, but
maybe he'll show up at the forge thing and go, "I'm ready to start working." I don't know what I was doing there.
What character was that?
I just made up a new character.
Okay.
It's funny. I was watching. We talked about X-Men a little bit, but I was watching all the X-Men movies recently, and the first X-Men. It's really hard to listen to Ian McKellen without hearing Gandalf. I'm like, man, that whole scene with him and Charles. We're the future, Charles, not them. It's like I can't. I just cannot escape Gandalf. Because if you watch Lord of the Rings movies and then X-Men movies, all in a row, it's kind of weird. I mean,
if only a Hobbit would have become a mutant and an X-Men, then Magneto would have stepped down and been like, "Oh, okay,
okay, yes." Anyway, it was just it's hard to not hear Ian McKellen, who's been a huge part of all these mythology things for a long time. Anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah, I really, and also I started to like Isildur more. They started to develop him more.
Yes,
and the Queen was less annoying in this one.
Yes.
Anyway, it's just I'm enjoying the show, and I don't even care if Galadriel is a Mary Sue or whatever they're saying she is. It doesn't bother.
Well, they really roll their R's and L's on the show, don't they?
Yeah. Well,
there's no way I would be able to do that on a consistent.
That is Galadriel.
You're like, whoa, easy there.
Easy there, Chief. Yeah. It's just. It's a fun show. I think it's largely due to the fact that I just love Tolkien so much, and I love Middle Earth stories, and Lord of the Rings trilogy. Peter Jackson's such a great series of movies that it was just nice to come back to this world and have it be done at at a high level. There are some things that are weaker than others, but I think they're finally finding their footing a little bit, and this will be a really good show in season 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think anytime anyone does an adaptation, there's always the quote unquote true fans that are like, oh, they're being disrespectful to the source material, and they obviously hate it. And spoilers, nobody ever makes an adaptation of something because they hate it. Anyway, I think the opposite, and as is true with most anything that's adapted, that the folks involved in this are steeped in their Tolkien lore and want to really flesh out this story that we've only gotten, snippets of and stuff like that. So I think they're even the new situations and characters that they've created feel like they fit and belong here, and it's enriching the universe, I guess, and really, I think it's a kind of a homage to, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I think it's great that Tolkien has made this enriched universe just by himself. That
pretty much, right?
You can insert these things in to go, well, we actually want to explore that story, and if we steep ourselves in all the material, you can reasonably extrapolate and create something new that fits. So
well, I think
they're doing a great job.
It's like with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit was a self-contained story, but it's like now we need to know. It's basically Lord of the Rings is a sequel to The Hobbit, if you think about it. So now we need to know what happens to the ring. We need to know all this other stuff. So there's no reason why the story can't start way back here in the past, right? And and the whole thing is just told all the way through. Because they're not going to do a sequel to Lord of the Rings because everyone leaves, right? So Gandalf and Frodo take off on the ship to go to the...
Everybody dies.
Well...
spoilers, but...
No, they go to into the light, but whatever.
You know what the Grey Lands are, right?
I know.
Yeah, they die. Come on.
I know. It's only because Frodo was like...
Spoilers.
Like pussy. He's like, my shoulder still hurts. It's been so long. It's like,
I mean, except for... and they kind of gloss over it at the end of the Lord of the Rings movies, the time from when they finish... to when they actually go to the Grey Lands, that's a long time in there.
Well, it is. I mean, Sam gets married and he has kids and whatever. And it's
there's like many, 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 many years, probably decades.
Well, because Frodo has to write his book. I think it's like 70 or 80 years, maybe something like that. It's a long time.
So it's like, I mean, people are like, oh, they completed it, and it's like, oh, did he just give up and die? It's like, no, he's old. he's
like, you know what, fuck it, I'm done. Yeah.
And he was never the same. None of them were ever the same again.
Well, no, and it's a really good scene that they just play with their eyes. Basically, when they're sitting in the pub, they're like, "Wow."
Oh yeah, all this stuff going on around them, and they're just sitting there not saying anything. It's like, wow, that was
some shit. Well, we've seen some shit, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, the only thing you could do is you could do a Merry and Pippin sequel.
Sure.
Like they open a pub. They buy the Prancing Pony. And they end up turning it's like Cheers. Everyone comes in to Prancing Pony.
The Tolkien version of Cheers.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
I would actually watch the shit out of that. And those two guys would be great, man. You could bring the same actors back. They could totally play it now. And I wouldn't say it'd be a sitcom, but it would be, there could be some humor, and you could just have, Aragorn when he comes in,
Well, they could do an anthology show, and they bookend it.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stories told in pubs.
Absolutely,
it'd be a great Tolkien anthology series.
Yeah, I would totally watch that. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Amazon,
we should pitch that.
Amazon, we're ready for you. We got another show for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I bet you could get those two guys relatively cheap, probably too.
I think they will. They all seem to greatly and have enjoyed their experience and still like being associated with it. So I don't think they'd have a problem.
No, Dom and Moynihan especially. I mean, I'm sure they would both come back, but obviously you couldn't get Elijah Wood because Frodo doesn't make it, folks. Sorry.
No, but you could have Sam show up.
Sam could show up. Yeah, Sean Astin could show up. And Sam's family could come on a vacation. It'd be great. I'd watch it. Anyway,
Amazon, talk to us.
Amazon, we're going to call.
We're going to expand your franchise for you.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And now people are going to steal it, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm sure lots of people have thought about it.
As long as it gets made.
You could do. I could hear the theme song. Come to the prancing pony where everybody knows your name. That's terrible. This is why I should not write jingles or whatever there.
You'd have to have a Hobbit that was a Norm type character.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So. Aragorn, he just shows up.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
it's the king. The king who was promised. The return of the king. He's come back. Everyone, the king. Everyone, the king.
Yes, that's the joke.
Yeah. The king. Anyway. The king has to pay his tab. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, does he? He's the king.
Oh, I don't know. He said we bow to no one. I'm just saying, So, Rings of Power, circling back for a second, is just is enjoyable.
Great show.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm enjoying it a lot. Still kind of enjoying She-Hulk, although I'm not 100% sure about that show. I mean, I know it's what the purpose of it is, but it seems like there's a lot of, I wonder.
She-Hulk to me is like hearkening back to like sitcoms where it was a done and one each episode. Really, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there are some continuing threads, but it doesn't have to. Everyone's like, I don't understand. Yeah. It doesn't have a purpose, and it doesn't. And it's like it doesn't. Why does it have to? I mean, everyone's so caught up in serialized TV that anything that does something different, it's
you can't really blame them. They kind of it's an abomination. Nice. I see what you did there. You can't necessarily blame them 100% though, because Marvel has established this whole everything matters serialization of everything. All the things are interconnected. It's the multiverse. Everything's Well,
you don't know yet that it doesn't. It's not connected because you haven't seen what comes next. That's the thing. I'm like, well, they're saying, I don't see how this connects. And it's like, well, yeah, because you haven't seen Secret War. You haven't seen Kang Dynasty.
I do wonder, something that I thought of, and then I've subsequently seen other people talk about this, is I do wonder about a show that is promoting, let's just say She-Hulk is kind of a show that promotes feminism, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yeah.
But the only way that their main character can get men is to be in She-Hulk form, and are they saying that just Jen is not enough for men to be attracted to? I thought it was.
She's got a boyfriend now, sort of, except he's a bad guy. But spoilers.
Yeah, a boyfriend in Canada, right? So, no, you're right. You're right. But then you're right. She does get somebody interested in her, but he was only interested in her for nefarious purposes, not because.
Right.
The thing I find hard to believe, and I guess, is that no one would be interested in this person as she is. She's a lawyer who makes good money. She's reasonably, intelligent person, obviously, with not too many weird problems, except she turns into She-Hulk.
Sure.
And not unattractive either. So it's like,
right.
Why is she not getting a date? Why are people? And I don't know what her relationship life was like before she became She-Hulk. They didn't really talk about that. So the idea that it's always in these movies like this hot girl with glasses can't get a boyfriend, but as soon as she takes her glasses off, everyone's like, oh, she's hot. So it's like, why is this person why is she undateable? What does that say?
Well, the show's not done yet. Maybe they're still.
I know.
I think they're making a commentary on it. Exactly what you're saying.
Well, I think they are, but
I think they'll bring it around.
If it's harder for me to maybe understand it because I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but it's just something that occurred to me. It's like, well, what are they trying to say? Are they saying that Jen Walters is not good enough? Because I feel like she would be, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. But anyway.
But yeah, I just still find that, well, this can't be connected. How is this connected to everything? I'm like, well, they're not going to, first of all, they're not going to tell you their next 3 years of plots.
Yeah.
And just wait and see. I mean, if it turns out we get all the way through all the rest of the movies and TV shows, and it's like, oh, She-Hulk's never mentioned. It's like, all right, I'll give you that they lied to us and it wasn't connected to anything, but just hold on.
Well, it's connected in the sense that She-Hulk is a character that exists in the Marvel Universe, and the Hulk is a character that exists in the Marvel Universe.
I think She-Hulk's going to be in the Avengers. I think she's going to play a part.
Yeah. But again, I find it hard to believe that Tatiana Maslany is not attractive people in the show. But whatever.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
And I have a feeling that She-Hulk, they'll probably reciprocate and have her show up on Daredevil's show.
Well, Daredevil has not shown up yet.
Which is kind of surprising since they really promoted that. And it's like, you have like 2 episodes left. Is he going to show up at some point?
Well, that's why I'm saying maybe they're just trolling everybody and he's not really going to show up.
Yeah, he doesn't actually show up.
Or he shows up in the end credit sequence in the last episode.
And it's just that one scene that they've shown of him in costume, and that's it.
I mean, the nice thing about She-Hulk is that everybody, I think, is really good as an actor. They're interesting to watch. Obviously,
yes.
even the minor characters, and this last episode was interesting because she got in this sort of circle of self help, and I thought there was going to be a twist with that, and they threw us a MacGuffin with that guy who was trying to redeem himself. I thought at the end,
yes,
once they got her, spoilers, once they got her to de-Hulk, I thought that was the time when he was going to jump on her and try to get her blood, but it turned out to be the guy who was ghosting her. But whatever, it's okay, spoilers. Again.
Yes,
but yeah. So they fooled me, sort of, not really.
I mean, if you want a connection, I think we all know at this point that Madison is Mephisto.
Right.
So that's going to be the big reveal eventually.
We all love Wong, everybody. Wong is here.
Everybody does.
Wong is here. Wonger. Yeah, Madison is Mephisto. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Or not.
So.
Anyway. So, yeah, we haven't seen the big brain yet, which I'm sure we'll see, and we haven't seen Daredevil yet, but it's not a Daredevil show. We did see Daredevil's helmet, though, so I guess that's all you're going to get.
We did. Maybe that's it. That's all we get.
Yes. So. I do. It's hard for me to fault the show. It's not a typical Marvel show, I guess you could say. It's not a typical action show. There's not a lot of action, but I like the people in the show. I think it's interesting, and that's the staple of a successful TV show, right? Because you get invested in the characters more than you do whatever they're going through. So all the people, for the most part, are likable and interesting to watch, not boring. I don't need the courtroom stuff necessarily, but I feel like, and this isn't I don't think this is my joke if I can remember, but someone brought it up. Like it's like Ally McBeal only with She-Hulk. Basically, they could have just remade that remade that show, but put She-Hulk in it instead of Calista Flockhart, which also has a connection to Indiana Jones. Spoiler, everybody. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, she's married to Harrison Ford. If you didn't know that, but everybody knows that.
Isn't it Ally McBeal that Robert Downey Jr. was on, or is that another show?
I think he actually was on the show, but I can't remember it. I never watched the show, but I know it exists. But which is why I guess I take it back. I did watch it a little bit, but I wasn't that interested in lawyer shows then. I'm not super interested in lawyer shows now. Although I did watch L.A. Law when I was younger, but
L.A. Law.
But that was only because Harry Hamlin was in it, and I had worked on a movie with Harry Hamlin a long time ago. So.
Oh, I thought you had a crush on Harry Hamlin. I mean, who didn't?
No, he was cool. I mean, the movie I did with him was like a trashy, low budget movie, but he was totally cool and a professional, which I appreciated. It was the first time I ever seen. Wow. Didn't
he do a sword and sorcery movie back in the
Clash of the Titans? Yeah, duh.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's why I was excited to work.
Something else other than that.
That's why I was excited to work with him because he's like, this is the guy from Clash of the Titans. I love that movie. Yeah. But yeah, it was totally cool and was fun to work with and sort of tried to, like I said, try to be a professional even though the material wasn't fantastic. And it's also the movie that I learned a very important lesson: always shoot the nudity first. So there you go, everybody.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay,
that's probably how they had to do it back in the day when people were like, I don't want to be naked now. So, so they get the nudity out of the way first. So the sex scenes were first in the movie, folks.
There you go. Yeah, get that
on the Santa Monica Pier.
Hey, by the way,
in a car. So there you go. Exciting.
Speaking of the MCU, and I don't know why nudity made me think of this, but what do you think of the news that reportedly they're turning the Armor Wars TV series into a film instead?
How did you get nudity from that? Because he's naked. Naked in the suit. I don't know.
Is he? That would be interesting.
I don't think so. Every time it's popped open, it looks like he's wearing regular
clothes.
That's
true.
He's like wearing like in Iron Man 3, he's like, get out of it. Or in Endgame, he's like, get out of the canopy, whatever. He's like, gets out of it. He's got clothes on. I don't think Rhodey's freeballing it inside the suit, probably. Maybe.
They have to spray it down.
I imagine it gets kind of musty in there at some point, but
probably
like in the porcupine suit that guy had on. And it's like, whoa, dude, when is the last time you watched that thing?
Yeah, that was like, oh, wow.
I thought that was going to be like some weird cameo, too. I thought it was going to be somebody like really well known, but I feel like that comedian's probably known, but I just don't know who it is. Anyway, it was a funny episode. I found it funny. Tim Roth, I'm not sure what he's doing exactly, but he's like he's playing like
he's just being Tim Roth.
He's just playing I am super stoned right now, and no one can tell me anything different.
Basically,
like, yeah, man. I mean, I know that he's like Blonsky reformed, right? So he's like more mellow and zen.
Or is he?
Or is he? Yeah, I guess we'll really know. Or we will know eventually. What was I saying? Anyway, it's not important. What were we talking?
But yeah, they turned Armor Wars.
Oh, Armor Wars. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for
film
circling back, dude. Brain us in, man. Come on.
I was actually kind of looking forward to that because I like that storyline in the comics, and maybe I'm wondering if because some of the criticism to some of the Marvel shows are like they should have been less episodes, oddly enough, And I don't share that, and I don't agree with that. But I'm wondering if they were like breaking the story, and they're like, we just don't have enough material here to make this stretch it out for 6 or 8 episodes or 10 episodes. Maybe we should do this as a movie.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so that's I found that kind of interesting that they pivoted, and it's proof that, because some people are like, oh, they're kind of forcing some of these shows, and it's like, well, it looks like to me they kind of evaluated each one, and in this instance they were like, no, this should be theatrical. This shouldn't be a show. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. It's why do they decide to do stuff? I don't know if it's a response from fans necessarily. I think they just decided that.
No, I don't think so. I just think, like I said, they were breaking the story, and they're like, really, we just don't.
Maybe, or maybe they just need to slide in a movie, and Don Cheadle is a movie star, right? So I don't know.
I'd like to see them go the opposite direction with Fantastic Four and do that as a high budget multi-season.
There's no chance they're going to do
series.
That.
I know that, but it would just be. Well, first of all, I'd also like to see them do it as a period piece and have it in the 60s when the comic debuted, and do it totally as a retro sci-fi type show or movie, but they're not going to do that either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
You're right. I agree.
Yes.
Anyway.
I agree.
So
copyright Matt Robb.
Copyright Matt Robb. Yeah. I think, maybe it's more likely, and you're probably right, that it's more likely that it's just we don't have enough story for a series, and let's just do a movie.
Yeah.
Or we need to slot in something else is falling out. Or maybe our schedule's getting fucked up by the fact that we lost our director for Blade, so now we don't have a...
Oh, yeah, that could have been a scheduling thing, too.
Yeah, we need something.
Not only that, but maybe it was like, hey, we keep pushing back the shoot, and I got these other movies and stuff to do. You only have me for, Don Cheadle for a specific period of time, and now that time is getting I don't know. I'm sure there's a number of things, but...
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're not going to just make decisions for no reason in a vacuum. So I think it's economic and maybe it's story. But the fact that they're having a problem with Blade now, and the director left, so you got to wonder. You know who they should give? Edgar Wright. That's all I'm going to say. They should make it.
They should bring him back.
They should
at some point
make it up to him
something.
and say, "You come back and do the Blade movie." He would direct the shit out of that. So
that would be,
because they were like a few months away from starting. So there had to
actually less than that. They were supposed to start next month. I thought November.
Well, so there has to have been some serious quote unquote creative differences to whatever. So you would think you'd know what movie you're on at some point.
And who you were making it for.
And who you're making it for. I mean, maybe you wouldn't. And it's a movie about a guy who's half vampire who hunts other vampires. It's a really simple story.
Yes.
How hard does it have to be? But, some people have... And I don't know what happened, obviously, because I'm not privy to those discussions, but there has to have been a point where they felt like they could work together, and then it comes to a breaking point, and usually it's the studio interfering more than anything else. Some people can handle that, and some people can't. So it's like Edgar Wright, it's like, fuck it, I don't want to do this, and so maybe this director just said, you know what, I'm good, I'm going to leave now. So we'll never probably know what really happened.
You got to have a Deadpool 3. See, if they had filmed it and it was coming out before Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
You got to have a scene where Blade shows up.
Yeah.
The new Blade shows up, and there's some kind of, because Ryan Reynolds was in Blade 3.
Meta.
So like, oh, you look different. What happened to you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
There you go.
Oh, don't you remember? We used to hang back in the day.
No, I don't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then you got to have her. You got to have him, and you got to have what's her face show up too. Then I guess.
Yes.
Justin Timberlake's wife, whose name I totally cannot remember right now.
Justin Timberlake's wife. Wow. Boy, that's really sexist.
I'm sorry, I couldn't remember her name. I'm a terrible person. I'm surprised I can remember Justin Timberlake's name. Anyway, anything else we want to talk about, or should we go to picks? I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, I guess we should go to picks.
I was
trying to think if there's anything else we should talk about.
Are there any dead horses we should be beating right now? I don't think so.
Is there? I can't even come up with a rant, man.
I don't have a rant. I'm still watching Game of Thrones prequel, even though we're not talking about that. But I'm still enjoying it. The time jump thing was weird, but I'm fine with it now. But
I have not watched it past the first episode.
You're not. I mean, I'm not saying it's required viewing by any means. I'm only enjoying it because I like fantasy shows, and so the fact that it has dragons in it is cool. I'm not 100% in love with it, but I'm just sort of watching it just to see what happens. And again, I kind of like fantasy shows, but it definitely, for all the publicity it's getting and all the numbers apparently it's doing, supposedly it's more successful than Rings of Power. But I like Rings of Power better, but that's just me. So,
well, and I kind of hear they're going to keep doing time jumps at various points.
Yeah, but they're not going to change the cast again. That was weird because those actors did a really good job as their younger selves. I'm not 100% sure why that had to happen, but I guess it did. So creatively,
and it happened,
and then it happened. So there you go.
Yeah.
And again, the new actors are fine. It's just you spent 4 or 5 episodes getting used to these other people playing these parts, and now you've changed some of the actors, but not all of them. Just the kids, just the 2 girls. But what's his face still stays. He's still the king, and some of the people have kind of grown up. So you have changed a few, but the 2 main female characters have changed. Not Matt.
Did they age up anybody else?
Not Matt Smith. No one else changed really. It's just it's just them. I mean, some of them look a little bit older, I suppose, but there's not really much. Even the guy who. Spoiler, who was was the princess's bodyguard who she ends up banging. He looks the same, but she's a different actress, which makes no sense. Anyway, and they changed actors for her husband too, because when they got married, they had their own little red wedding. But he was younger and she was younger, and then they're both older actors. And the new guy is not very good, unfortunately. The other guy was better. Even as a kid, he was better. He had more gravitas, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's not my favorite show of the 2. Rings of Power I enjoy more. And again, that's probably a function of how much I like Tolkien, and I never was a huge George R.R. Martin fan. So Anyway, there's that, and there's other things going on, but we'll get to them, I'm sure. In the meantime, Joe, what is it?
Picks.
What are you enjoying that you'd like to pick this week and talk about?
I'm going to pick a TV show.
I've heard of TV.
That's not one we've talked about.
Thank God.
I'm just going to pick Rings of Power. No, I'm just kidding.
That's fine.
I'm going to pick the new, it's not really a reboot, the new sequel series, Quantum Leap. I'm a huge fan of the original Quantum Leap show with Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. It's a classic. Did some tremendous stuff and really great. And I think it was inevitable that it's a great concept. A guy that inhabits bodies in the past and does right what once went wrong in history, or at least within his lifetime. So I think it's sort of inevitable that it would either return or get rebooted at some point. I'm surprised it took this long. But they have brought it back, and it is a continuation, and there are lots of threads to the original show which are really interesting. I don't want to really mention any because they're spoilers. It's only 2 episodes in. But, I mean, any show that has Ernie Hudson as a lead is going to be pretty great. And it's wonderful to see him on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But all of the cast is really good on this. And it's a fun show and a great continuation, and maybe it'll get to answer some of the questions that were left at the end of the original series.
Does he ever get to leap home? I hope he does.
No, he doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. I hope he does someday.
So this is, in fact, they spun up the Quantum Leap project again in trying to find out where he went and where he is. And wacky hijinks ensue. And lead character,
not wacky hijinks.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy.
But and things go wrong?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Weird.
So, well, he leaps without thinking, and of course, it Swiss cheeses your brain so you don't have your memories, and he doesn't know what's going on. But it's I don't know. It's a really good show, and I'm really enjoying it. Unfortunately, I don't think it's doing well in the ratings, but I hope more people gravitate to it and give it a chance and jump on board so that it can continue for many seasons and that we can get the answers to the questions we've always wanted.
Yeah.
So
I've heard it hasn't doing very well either, but you never know.
It may pick up. Who knows?
What network is it on?
NBC.
Oh, NBC. I've heard of them.
No, this is the first I ever heard of them. I didn't know that.
Isn't that like Peacock, where the Community movie is going to be?
Yes. And a movie.
And a movie.
Yes.
They finally, as foretold in the history books.
Yes, as foretold and prophesied in the before times.
Yes, in the best timeline. The
Community gets and a movie. You think Chevy Chase will be involved at all?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
I think the bigger question is, will what's his face be involved? And you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to forget. I forgot the actor's name. He's in Atlanta, and he played Lando Calrissian. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. Will he be?
I thought they
will he be
announced
involved?
Him as part of the
or
cast.
Dong Lover, as I call him. Wait, sorry.
They didn't announce like everybody for it, but I thought he was.
Well, you know who will be back? The principal guy.
Oh yes. Oh no, Glover is not listed.
See, I'm just saying. Oh boy. Well, you know what? I'm sure that Harmon will try to get everybody, even Donald Glover.
I'm sure.
But they're not even. But in the picture they use on the Deadline article, it doesn't even have Donald Glover in it.
So is Community your pick this week?
It's not.
Okay.
My pick this week is a movie we talked about already, but I don't remember if we talked about it in the pre-show or in the actual show because I don't remember things anymore. My pick is Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut.
Ah, nice.
So the reason I'm picking this is several reasons, really, but one of the main ones is because if you've watched the original or the one that was released, the Richard Lester cut, which was actually just the Superman 2 movie, it wasn't even called the Richard Lester cut at the time.
Sure.
It's worth it to watch this one as Richard Donner intended to see the differences between the two movies and what was going to happen, like the ending and many other things, how Superman gets revealed as Superman to Lois and stuff like that. But there's a lot of similarities, but if you watch it closely, there's also a lot of things that are different. Even in scenes that are in both movies, they're edited differently to emphasize different things. It's definitely worth watching, especially if you're a fan of Christopher Reeve as Superman. It gives you a little bit of different insight into him playing the character because he's not as, I don't want to say bumbling. He's still kind of bumbling, but I feel like Richard Lester really tried to pump up the camp in his version. If you've ever seen his Three Musketeers movies, you know. I mean, you've got like Rocco Welch falling down all the time and doing shit. I mean, you know, I love those movies. They're fun, but I don't necessarily want a campy sort of slapstick Superman movie. Although it worked, like again, it worked for that century of France when people are like, you know, falling down and whatever. It was funny, but those movies are interesting because they're very campy, but then they become super serious all of a sudden. Like people start dying. It's weird. They have a weird tone to them, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. I like the Donner cut mostly more than the other one, but there are some things like, as I was telling Joe during, I guess it was the pre-show, I feel like there's a really, really amazing movie if you kind of combine the two.
Yes.
But
I agree.
But anyway, watch the Donner cut of Superman 2 and compare it to the Lester cut and just see, you know, if you see what you see of, you know, differences and similarities and differences, and I said differences twice now, and the differences and the differences.
the differences in the differences.
The difference in the differences. Yes. Yeah, there you go. And how they're similar, but also, you know, you can get a little bit different idea of Christopher Reeve's performance and Margot Kidder's performance, and just, you know, and again, the editing, the Gene Hackman scenes, there's a couple of things that are different about him and what they emphasize. Like, for example, Gene Hackman in the Donner cut says he wants Cuba as his thing, not Australia. Which I think is weird. That's what he says in the Daily Planet office, but later Zod says Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia. So it's like there's kind of some inconsistencies too, but he picks Cuba, which I thought was a weird flex for Lex, if you want to call it
that. Flex for Lex. Yes.
So anyway, so there's different I don't know what was going on when they were doing the movie, when they were making it. Obviously there was something going on with Cuba, because there always was, but it was more interesting, more poignant than Australia, which, you know, was what he also says too. Anyway, Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, available where all fine movies are found. So that's my pick.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Excellent. Great pick.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for validating me. I appreciate it. Yours was good too. So find the Flickcast where all you find the podcast and everything you listen to, all the good stuff, you know, on Spotify and Apple and every place that you find those things. Joe and I are on the socials at What Joe Writes. I am at Chris Yu, and Ulrich Picks at Instagram, although I haven't updated that in a while. I will update again eventually. And then, of course, all of our other links at Linktree, link.tr, I don't even know how to say it, link.tree, oh wait, linktr.ee/TheFlickcast. That's it.
That's kind of confusing.
I should write that down.
You should.
Or just record it once and never ever say it again. But
There you go.
that would be probably more ideal than having to try to remember it every time. But
Now you're thinking.
now I'm thinking it won't happen again. So, and then feel free to rate and review the show. Again, thank you for people who've rated us on Spotify. I noticed a couple of other ratings on Spotify, so thanks a lot for that.
Yay!
And they weren't even terrible ratings too. But yeah, follow us on the socials, and please say nice things about the show if you feel inclined, or retweets are welcome, or anything really. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening, and it's nice to do a show that a few people respond to. So
it is kind of nice.
One or two. So anything else, Joe?
I think that's it. I'm going to go watch the Donner cut of Superman 2.
I think you should. I think you'll find it interesting. All right, cool. So for Joel Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks for listening.